Australians feeling the pinch of cost of living pressures, housing affordability has become centre of the election campaign. Federal Labor has outlined a shared equity scheme that would essentially mean buying 30 to 40% of a property with 10,000 buyers. The coalition is banking on its home deposit guarantee scheme, allowing moderate to higher income earners to take out home loans with only a 5% deposit. For more on this, let's bring in Nicole Gurran. She's a professor in housing and an urban planner from the University of Sydney. Nicole, thanks for joining us this afternoon. In this current economic climate, do you believe that the major parties have a plan that would stack up if you are looking to get into the market?
Look, unfortunately, both of the major parties have outlined policies that symbolise a commitment and a concern about housing affordability, and particularly concern for first home buyers who have increasingly been shut out of the market. But there's not really very much that's going to create fundamental change in the conditions that have led to the problems that those first home buyers are facing.
Let's talk about Labor's housing policy. It's a shared equity scheme. What do you think about this? How would something like this work?
So shared equity schemes are a good approach. They allow lower and moderate income buyers into the market with a lower deposit, and of course they reduce the size of the overall mortgage as well. They exist in several of the Australian states. They're well established overseas. So they are a good model, and it is encouraging to see an aspiring Commonwealth government signal a shift in this direction. The concern that I have is that there's no word yet to confirm that these shared equity products will be linked to new housing supply. And that's what we really need to do, especially given that interest rates are predicted to rise, property prices are therefore predicted to cool, and we're likely to see the market signals that have actually propelled new housing supply over the past 5 years. We're likely to see those market forces shifting backwards. And so what we really need is a government policy to actually stimulate new house building as a sort of counter-cyclical measure, which addresses both the need for social and affordable housing while also supporting a really important sector of the economy, the housing industry.
Are there any complications then, do you think, with government owning 40% of private housing?
Look, I'm not so concerned about government having a stake in a shared equity product. In fact, that's a well-established part of shared equity schemes. The state could be managed by a non-profit, community-based housing provider, for instance, or it could be an entity established by the government. The concern is really that government investment be used to stimulate new social and affordable housing supply. And that's going to be a really important way of making sure that that investment actually signals a real bang for buck and doesn't simply prop up investment in the existing housing stock.
If you're a first home buyer, you're looking desperately to get into an already crowded market. If someone is needing assistance with 40% of the deposit, for example, how can they afford to keep making mortgage repayments if they already need that extra help?
Look, it's true that this scheme is not going to be accessible to many of the moderate income aspiring first home buyers who are stuck in the rental treadmill. That's why it's really disappointing that neither of the major parties have signalled a serious commitment to increase the supply of social and affordable homes. Labor's promised investment in 30,000 new social and affordable homes over the next 3 years. That's really a much smaller proportion than, for instance, was even being delivered in the mid-90s. Neither of the major parties have signalled an increase to Commonwealth rent assistance, which is the subsidy paid to low-income renters, and there's simply not enough in today's time. So unfortunately, the scheme that's on the table will assist some moderate income earning aspiring first home buyers, but for many it won't be suitable. In terms of whether those whether eligible households who are able to take out a loan under these terms, I think the scheme is well managed in that respect because the usual lending criteria around mortgage serviceability will apply.
Just finally, you are an urban planner. What is the solution here, do you think, or is there even one? Is it hard to say?
Look, we've been told that the housing problem is too hard to fix in Australia. That's simply not true. Historically, Australia has had affordable, well-produced, high-quality homes produced both by the private market as well as by government. We can return to that golden period of housing policy, if you like, simply with a national plan, some leadership. And it's important to note that the Labor Party is talking about reinvigorating a national leadership role for a Commonwealth government in housing. But the Commonwealth also needs to work with the states. In addition to funding social and affordable housing, they can leverage that funding to use the state and local planning powers, for instance, to ensure that when new homes are built, a proportion of those new homes are affordable to local people who want to live and work in the area. And they can also leverage that funding capacity and their leadership powers to bring about real rental reform so that renters are protected from unfair eviction and from unfair rental hikes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I'm sure many Australians looking very closely at it right now. Nicole, Gurran, we have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.